I don't really know too much about the AfD and whether the rhetoric about them being a far-right party is accurate or not. Judging by just how things are these days, you could place a strong bet that they're probably not, just because everything's far-right these days. Do you know, I was watching Rastamouse the other day, and I could see a lot of far-right imagery going on in Rastamouse that I thought was quite problematic, just because my brain has been conditioned to think so from constantly reading articles everywhere. So this is the day and age we live in now. What I would say is that when governments and political parties did not listen to the concerns of people over mass immigration, and when you had a massive surge, around 2014, 2015, whenever it was, because they didn't listen to the concerns before then, it created a huge problem. That is, create a wave of populism and the want for closed borders and the general disdain for the EU. This is what's happened. This is what happens when you don't listen to people, and this is what happens when you label people, or consistently label people far right, or say that people are, what's the word? Racist, or even Islamophobic, or what's the term I'm trying to think of? The other phobic one, the fear of the ones where you don't like immigrants and stuff. What's that one? God, I just can't remember words anymore. But you know what I'm saying. This is what happens when you label people these things. There will be an inevitable backlash. Obviously, the rampant lunacy of the left wing has pushed a hell of a lot of people over to one side, and also created a situation where people who are a little bit to the right of them are, well, it's very far right from when you're extremely hard left, isn't it? So this is the problem that you got. You had Ed Miliband and David Cameron both saying the same thing at one point before we had, the age of lunacy fully took over and Clown World was established as a global dominant fort as an actual thing. We were on the verge of living in Clown World, and then suddenly we found ourselves living in it without actually realizing it. So this is what you're gonna get. Are you happy now? Because whose fault is it? Whose fault is it? Anyway, they have surge in Saxony and Brandenburg. Germany's far-right Alternative for Germany party has surged in elections in two eastern states. Preliminary results show Chancellor Angela Merkel's centre-right Christian Democrats appear to remain the largest party in Saxony, but with a smaller vote share. In Brandenburg, the AfD were expected to finish close behind the centre-left Social Democrat Party. The setbacks for the ruling parties were not as major as feared. The AfD benefited from discontent over Germany's refugee policies and the planned closure of coal mines in the former communist states. So look at that. So apparently, you have the former communist eastern part of Germany now apparently far right. That's a very interesting take on everything, isn't it? In Saxony, the CDU saw its share of the vote drop 7.4%. Blah, 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 blah. I'm not really interested in the numbers, mate. Anyway, we're satisfied in Brandenburg as well as Saxony, AfD co-leader Alexander Gauland said, adding that his party had punished Mrs. Merkel's conservatives. But despite the gains, the result may disappoint the AfD, as the party had hoped to win most votes in Brandenburg. The BBC's Damien McGuinness reports from Berlin. He reports from Berlin. I said it as if he was about to say something, but that's what he's already said. Sorry about that, actually, if I confused you. The numbers will be greeted with relief by both the CDU and the SPD, partners in Mrs. Merkel's national government, our correspondent adds. The coalition is due to last until federal elections in 2021, and a collapse could trigger a snap election or result in a minority government. Mrs. Merkel, but not the sort of minority that they want. Mrs. Merkel herself plans to step down as Chancellor in 2021, having already resigned as CDU leader at the end of last year. Well, that's not going so well for her. So, this is from a couple of years ago on the BBC as well, just to give you the general thought behind what the AfD is. How right-wing is the nationalist AfD? You notice they'll never say, how left-wing is Momentum? Or something like that. Because, when you go way too far over there, there's no helping you. It's a bit like, being promiscuous and, being a bit freaky in the bedroom. You can go a little bit too far, You can like a bit of spanking, being tied up, blindfolded, a bit of that. And then you can go all the way, then you're getting onto the nipple clamps. You're like, okay, all right. And then you're getting all the way over to there when there's, cheese graters on genitals and stuff like that. And you're like, oh, okay. You've gone a bit too far over there, my friend. This is dangerous. The asphyxiation, doing a bit of a Michael Hutchins, Sorry about the banging downstairs. They're going way too over to the far right as it is by all that banging. The self-asphyxiation where you hang yourself and whack off, that's going a bit too far, isn't it? You need to slow down a bit and go, am I going a bit too far over there? Look at this guy. He's a Nazi, isn't he? Right. And the Nationalist Alternative for Germany has entered Parliament in Germany for the first time. This is from 2017, this article. Winning 12.6% of the vote and more than 90 seats. Founded in 2013 as an anti-Euro party, it has dramatically shifted its focus to immigration and Islam, and is increasingly seen as far-right in tone. Is it far-right? I don't know. Yes. All right. Just yes. Leading AfD figures made extremist statements before and during the 2017 election campaign. Since the vote, Alexander Gauland has talked of fighting an invasion of foreigners. Well, you see, I think using the term invasion is, a bit subjective. But when you have 1 million people just come in, it can look like an invasion. Germany should know this. They did a lot of invading themselves not that long ago. So if anyone knows what an invasion is, it's them. And their campaign openly focused on Islam and migration. It has a lot to do. AfD sees Islam as alien to German society. Some of their rhetoric has been tinged with Nazi overtones. Tinged. Is that an opinion? They sit in the same political family as France's far-right National Front and Austria's far-right Freedom Party, as well as the populist anti-Islam Dutch Freedom Party of Geert Wilders. Sounds like a left-back for Ajax. Nigel Farage, former leader of UK's anti-EU party UKIP, took part in their election campaign. AfD started out as an anti-Euro party and still has relatively moderate wing, so almost 1 million of its new voters have come from the centre-right CDU and 500,000 from the centre-left SPD. Well, look at what's going on there then. Isn't that similar to all the Bernie Sanders supporters who abandoned the Democrat Party and voted for Trump? Isn't that a similar thing? When they're like, fuck these people, man. Their anti-immigration rhetoric now puts them in the far-right camp. But where's the context to it? Because I guarantee, I haven't looked into it as much as this. I just want to see what they think. I would encourage you to go look at what they're actually saying in full, not snippets that are in news outlets. Go look at what they actually say in full. Get the whole context of what they're saying before you start making up your own mind about what they are. But their brand of nationalism is less extreme than that of Germany's NPD, seen by many as a neo-Nazi group. Who to watch? AfD has only existed for 4 years and its leadership has gone through regular, turbulent changes. Its best known figures are currently Alice Weidel and Alexander Gauland. Frauke Petry was its most recognisable face, but she has gone independent because of an internal party spat, as is always the case. Alice Weidel, a 30-year-old economist who lives in Switzerland with a woman adopted as a child from Sri Lanka and their two children. She is one of the smaller number of women in prominent positions in the AfD and argues that her presence as one of the top candidates proves the party is not homophobic. Well, I didn't know they were homophobic as well. Well, bloody hell. Alexander Gauland, a 76-year-old lawyer, has made a number of remarks condemned as racist, including one on footballer Jerome Boateng, who was born in Berlin to a Ghanaian father. They like him as a footballer, but they don't want to have Boateng as their neighbour. We need context on that, because it does sound a bit racy when it's put like that, but there needs to be more context to that, and I guarantee there will be. Because this is the age of outrage. This is the post-2014 world. One of AfD's most significant figures is Eastern Germany. In Eastern Germany, is Bjorn Höcke, and many of its new MPs are linked to him. Party leader in the state of Thuringia? I don't know. He has been behind some of the biggest controversies. He once criticised the Holocaust Memorial in Berlin, saying, "We Germans are the only nation in the world that have planted a monument of shame in the heart of their capital." I think that's quite an interesting point to make, though, isn't it? Like, we have, you know, we're just going to concentrate on the shame of the past, because Germany does wear it. Like, it really does wear it. Wears it hard. It's kind of like, you know, how does that make people feel? I can I can understand where he's coming from there, and I don't think that's like a particularly far right thing to say. I think it's just an interesting take on it, saying, you know, like, we're the only nation in the world that have planted a monument of shame. Why have we got this monument of shame? You know, when you want to uplift a country, it's just an interesting take on it, isn't it? I can see the point there that he may have been trying to make. You know, it's not like he said, you know, why are we commiserating all these Jews? You know, that'd be bad, wouldn't it? That'd be the bad thing to say. Beatrix von Storch, what a great name. AfD Deputy Beatrix von Storch. Welcome the UK's 2016 vote to leave the EU as Independence Day for Great Britain. She has vowed to start debates on migration, Islam and the EU. Jörg Meuthen, another co-leader, is seen as a relative moderate. After the election result, he insisted AfD did not accept racism or xenophobia. That was the word I was looking for earlier, xenophobia. Thank you. But in the same breath, complained that in some German cities, I struggle to find Germans on the streets. Again, if that's the worst thing they've said, you know, fighting mass immigration, AfD's big success has been in challenging Angela Merkel's decision to let in around 1.3 million undocumented migrants and refugees, mainly from the Middle East, since 2015. There you go. They have tapped into anxieties over the influence of Islam. There you go. Don't forget, the post-9/11 world has been a very, very strange one. The party wants a commission set up to investigate the Chancellor's breaches of the law in allowing them in. When the numbers of migrants arriving in Germany surged in 2014 and 2015, AfD made that the focus of the party platform. There were contacts with anti-immigration Pegida movement, which staged weekly marches against what it called the Islamization of the West. Pegida took hold mainly in eastern cities such as Dresden, and it is in the ex-communist East that AfD had its biggest success, attracting more men than any other party. Well, men again, I suppose. Sorry about that, I don't know what he's doing. I think he's cutting up his wife. Odd, perhaps, in that the biggest concentrations of immigrants are not in those areas. You know, it's a BBC article, so they had to have that. Oh, oddly enough, there's not a lot of immigrants there. Well, maybe they think they're going to come there. I don't know. You know, I don't know, do I? AfD adopted some of Pegida's anti-establishment rhetoric, such as the slogan Lügenpresse, lying press, which was used by the Nazis. Oh yeah. All right, okay. If that's the best you can come up with, then there you go. That's the best thing you can sort of use for the Nazi reference. Germany must reintroduce permanent border controls, and the EU's external borders must be completely shut, AfD says. That position contradicts Schengen, the EU's free movement zone covering most of Europe, where border checks are generally minimal. AfD argues that Germany must set up a new border police force. Frauke Petri once said German police should, if necessary, shoot at migrants seeking to enter the country illegally. Again, need context, it just says, if necessary. If necessary. So there's obviously a lot more to that statement, I think. See, I'm not trying to defend these people or anything, I'm just saying this is how they frame it all the time, because we don't know. We are merely foreigners. We are foreigners that do not know. And she was seen as an AfD moderate. AfD wants to end asylum seekers bringing family members over to join them in Germany. It says a system designed to help individual refugees is being exploited by unskilled migrants, many of whom struggle to integrate with Germans. This is the rhetoric. This is the fall. This is what happens when you don't regulate the borders. This is what is born from this. How did you not know? Well, they did know, and then they just ignored it. So there you go. Challenging Islam as not German, AfD adopted an explicitly anti-Islam policy in May 2016, and its election manifesto had a section on why Islam does not belong in Germany. Burqas, we like bikinis, read one of its most garish posters. Oh, you know, I think a lot of people do. Anyway, AfD would ban foreign funding of mosques in Germany. ban the burqa and Muslim call to prayer and put imams through a state vetting procedure. Now, when you get to this sort of level of stuff, you're like going, okay, right, you're being a bit... Ooh. Moderate Muslims who accept integration are valued members of society, the programme says, but it argues that multiculturalism does not work. I think there's a huge argument for multiculturalism not working, because people sort of get it confused, you know. It's not just multiracialism. It's not like different races can't live together. It's different cultures, you know. If everyone sort of adopts the same similar traits of the culture, you know, you'll go to any sort of cultural movement. You know, it's not just national culture. There's also different kinds of culture, you know, and you'll find lots of people from different backgrounds where they share some sort of cultural values. And I think when you have conflicting cultures sort of all thrown together, like, don't like each other a lot of the time as well, you get a lot of naughtiness going out of it, you know. There's a lot of naughtiness. It's something that needs to be sort of reevaluated and tackled better, because it hasn't been. Moderate Muslims were accept integration anyway, blah, blah, blah. An estimated 3 million people of Turkish origin live in Germany, most of them Muslims. Using nationalistic rhetoric, AfD has also built in its success on challenging taboos and flirting with racism. Ahead of the election, Alexander Gauland stirred controversy by saying the government's top integration official, Aydin Özgür, could be disposed of in Anatolia. Özgür is a German of Turkish origin. I don't know what that means. Mr. Gauland also drew criticism for declaring that Germans should be proud of their soldiers in both World Wars. While SS units were notorious for German atrocities in World War II, the regular armed forces also committed many war crimes. I mean, that's a huge debate to go into that I haven't got time for right now. Ms. Petrie, Jesus, Ms. Petrie tried to end the taboo of the Nazi-era term Volkisch, which comes from the German word for people, but was hijacked by the Nazis to define those they saw as belonging to the German race. I don't know, maybe they're just trying to reclaim some stuff from the Nazis. You know, I think everything should be reclaimed from the Nazis. I'm not defending all this, I'm just saying I think everything should just be reclaimed from them and just they should be told to fuck off. You know, we should always remember what the fuck they did. But like, you know, you can't call someone Adolf, you can't have a funny little moustache because of the Nazis. Come on, mate. Against the euro, AfD has come a long way since it launched in early 2015 to challenge Eurozone bailouts in Greece and elsewhere and reject the EU's argument for keeping the euro. It still promises to abandon the euro and reintroduce the Deutschmark. The party's first leader, Bernd Lucke, left AfD in 2015 arguing that it was becoming increasingly xenophobic. Its anti-euro policy echoes the Euroscepticism of other populist parties in Europe. More powers must return to the nation-states, AfD says, opposing all centralising moves in the EU and anything that smacks of Euro-federalism. If the EU fails to reform and continues centralising, AfD says the party will seek to pull Germany out of the EU.
This is what happens when you don't listen to the people.
And when you just constantly berate them for having concerns. This is what you get, my friends. This is what you get. So think about that next time when you label someone a Nazi, okay? Because, you know, you don't want things to get really nutty, do you? So it's on you as well as everyone else, alright? You know, I learned not to do it. You can do the same, and then hopefully we can scramble ourselves out of clown world. Hopefully.